Chapter 725. Crocodile is just a small character who is not worth mentioning on the grand line. The reason why the position of Shichibukai was given to this kid was barely a stroke of luck. Of course, it is undeniable that his wisdom and strength also played a certain role. In the dancing sandstorm, the vague outline of the sanddame was clearly visible. "Master, what's wrong with you? Is there something wrong?" Dustless's footsteps suddenly halted. Then, he turned around leisurely and looked at the void behind him. His eyes were as deep as water. His eagle-like sharp eyes seemed to be able to see through the heavy sandstorm. His sight was fixed on Crocodile. In the dark, Dustless saw Crocodile's intact appearance. "Go back," Wu-chin said coldly with a cold smile on his face. Both Robin and Hancock were stunned and looked at Dustless. They looked at his firm and unshakable eyes and couldn't say much. After all, Dustless is the master of the two of them. "Master, you want to ask why I went back?" Dustless waved to interrupt Hancock and strolled back. Dustless glanced at Hancock and Hancock. "The reason is very simple, because the fish that should fall has already taken the bait." Robin and Hancock looked at Dustless in confusion, and their eyes were full of curiosity. "You two are always too simple." Seeing the eyes of the two women, Dustless couldn't help but sigh. The strength of these two women is indescribable, but in some aspects of thinking, they are too simple and ignorant. Crocodile is just a small character with a bounty of 81 million berries. Although he is a Shichibukai, he knows some things that he shouldn't know, which explains the problem. "Master, are you talking about the source of Pluto?" Robin asked with a flash of light in her eyes. Dustless heard the words and looked at Robin unexpectedly, and immediately nodded undeniably. Crocodile's identity is humble, and his strength is weak. It is extremely unreasonable for him to know the existence of Pluto. Thinking about the top-secret information Waitsetsu had collected over the years, Dustless frowned. If he guessed correctly, the source of Crocodile's information about Pluto was actually the Revolutionary Army. In other words, he might just be a pawn being used. To put it bluntly, it was very likely that they were the lackeys of the Revolutionary Army. In the large deep pit, Crocodile felt his vitality rapidly fading away. The moment he was about to close his eyes and wait for death, the whole earth suddenly trembled and dust splashed up a few meters high. She subconsciously opened her eyes, and the first thing she saw was a tall figure. The newcomer had a huge face with abnormally large dark purple eyes, thick eyelashes, light blue eyeshadow, and purple lip gloss. Her clothes were also rather strange, with mesh stockings and a cloak, and a tight, ultra-low-cut jumpsuit. It looked strange, but Crocodile seemed to have found a life-saving straw. After all, if he dies, you can't show your superb medical skills. Chapter 726. Ivankov's face turned green. Like Crocodile, his broad and rough face was filled with fear. This terrifying person who easily defeated Durag was not to be underestimated. He was a forbidden existence that could not be touched. He could only look up, unable to look at him. "To be honest, your medical skills are so superb, it's really surprising." During the conversation, Dustless's body completely ignored the existence of gravity and floated in front of Ivankov and Crocodile. Nico, Robin, and Hancock also followed. He stared at Crocodile and Ivankov. Dustless was fine, but the appearance of Robin immediately aroused Crocodile's hatred. He stared at Robin fiercely, and his eyes almost popped out. You actually guessed that I would come to his aid." Ivankov's face was pale, and he instinctively suspected that there was a traitor in the Revolutionary Army. With a chuckle, Dustless explained, "This is very simple. Decades ago, when you contacted Crocodile, the Revolutionary Army was already under my control. Waitsetsu had been ordered to monitor the movements of the Revolutionary Army and Crocodile. By the way, your ability should not belong to the category of treatment. Dustless's deep eyes sparkled, and he looked at Ivankov with a little surprise. In a sense, I have used the ability of Rinnegan to modify Durag's memory, but you can still make him change back. This kind of disease can't be cured at will. Dustless used Rinnegan to modify Durag's memory, but Ivankov in front of him could restore Durag's memory. Dustless was naturally surprised. Doctor. I never said that I was a doctor. Although his strength was not as good as Dustless, Ivankov could not be captured. He was not afraid at all, and his words revealed unprecedented firmness. Now there were only two ways to go, to fight to the death or to wait for death. He naturally chose the former. Of course I know that. You're a paramecia user, not a simple doctor. You're a human engineer who can transform people from the inside. The ability user's healing hormone can give people with incurable diseases a chance to be saved, but at the cost of several years of their lifespan. Dustless explained with a smile. In fact, Dustless knew that he was releasing a tiger back to the mountain when he let Durag go. How about now? Are you two going to put on the collar yourselves, or, Death's charming eyes? Before Dustless could finish his words, Ivankov took the initiative to launch an attack. He blinked his eyes abruptly and pounced directly at Dustless. Naive, helplessly shaking his head, Dustless easily used elementalization to avoid the impact of the storm, while Hancock and Robin easily dodged sideways. What are you looking at? Run, you idiot! Ivankov glared at Crocodile and cursed. Then, he turned into a gust of wind and disappeared, stirring up a violent sandstorm. Looking up, Crocodile's eyes were blood-red as he stared at Robin with resentment. Standing up with difficulty, Ivankov finally chose to continue to resist, because the result of obeying Dustless was to be locked in the dark impelled down, and this was the best result. If he was unlucky, he would be directly obliterated. Just like Crocodile, who was almost crippled by Dustless's kick. Milky Way wink. Seeing Dustless's lazy and bored face, a hurricane dozens of times stronger than the Death's charming eyes came. Boom boom boom, the ferocious storm destroyed the world. The hurricane thrown out by the high-speed rotation frequency was unstoppable. It was like a knife tossing the sand into a desolation. Poochie poochie, in an instant, Dustless, who was motionless like a sculpture, was swallowed. The sound of flesh being cut was chilling. The storm of swords seemed to be able to cut steel. Ha, this time you brat, what kind of joke is this? The proud face suddenly froze. Ivankov's pupils dilated, and he looked at Dustless who was walking out of the storm. He was petrified as if he saw a ghost. Intact. It must be because of my old eyes. Ivankov rubbed his eyes, and Dustless was intact. His clothes were clean, his face was ruddy, and his breathing was extremely rhythmic. Obviously, he was very healthy. Not to mention severely injuring Dustless, even his clothes showed no signs of being damaged. It was as if the attack was directly ignored and filtered. What's so surprising about being intact? Did you expect to defeat me with this ridiculous trick? You really can't be judged by the eyes of ordinary people. Looking carefully at the sluggish Ivankov, Dustless couldn't help but shake his head. He had lost interest. A fight between children, let's stop here. Don't waste my time. Staring at the stones around Ivankov, Dustless's expression gradually turned cold. Heavenly hand power. Activating the ability of Rinnegan, he directly appeared behind Ivankov, holding an ancient tachi in his hand, which was filled with the vicissitudes of life and inauspiciousness. Staring at Ivankov in front of him, Dustless's eyes flashed with contempt. The gap between them was too big, and it was difficult to arouse his interest. Clang! The first-generation ghost blade in his hand was unsheathed, and there was a roar of steel. When Ivankov reacted, his face changed drastically. When he was about to dodge, it was already too late. The first generation ghost blade had already cut his body, leaving an unerasable mark. Poochie. Blood splashed everywhere. Ivankov's back was torn open, and there were many ghastly wounds on it. His strength was gone in an instant, and he fell to the ground unwillingly, losing his consciousness. Only my weak breathing could be heard. Chapter 730. Dustless was too lazy to participate in the grievances of the three admirals, and he didn't have time to meddle in their business. There were too many things involved behind this. Akainu could hook up with the world government, and Kazan was the first choice of the fleet admiral. To some extent, this was a conflict between the marine and the world government. Dustless only needed to stay out of it, and there was no need for him to get involved. In fact, Dustless hoped that Akiji and Akainu would fight, and the marine admirals would kill each other, and the situation would be more chaotic. He could also take the opportunity to fish in troubled waters and gain greater benefits. But it should be impossible, after all, there is the existence of Kizaru. Today's chaotic world has been divided up by one piece, the world government, marines, including the Revolutionary Army. What is left for Wu Qin are all crooked melons and cracked dates. Therefore, in order to obtain greater benefits, the world order must first collapse first. In the dense city, there was an endless stream of people passing by. After Straw Hat Luffy defeated Crocodile, the city seemed to have regained its former vitality. The kingdom in the desert, Alabasta, had a refreshing scenery. Dustless and Hancock walked in the crowd, both of them wearing heavy coats. His identity as a marine admiral has been known to the world in recent years, and it was necessary to cover it up. Robin. Kids nowadays seem to like playing hide-and-seek with adults. This kind of boring game really can't arouse the slightest interest. Wu Chen, who was wearing a hat, lowered the brim of his hat and looked slightly helpless. After looking for a long time, he didn't find any trace of Robin. Obviously, she deliberately hid to keep him in suspense. Robin has been outside for many years, and her hidden means are perfect. Even the master can't find her. Hancock's face showed a charming dimple, and she looked very proud. Perfect and flawless. Maybe. Dustless's clear eyes looked at Hancock, and his eyes had a different meaning. Master, what's wrong with you? Seeing Dustless staring at her, Hancock's smile solidified and she asked curiously. If I didn't expose you, little girl, you would have thought that your trick was perfect. Dustless said inexplicably. Her little white hand reached for Hancock's face, and a special energy fluctuation appeared in her palm, and Hancock's mask shattered. Robin's true body was revealed. Young master, how do you know I am not Hancock? Robin's tone was surprised and uncertain. With this simple disguise technique, she had deceived countless marine spies. It wasn't until today that Dustless revealed a flaw. It must be because the young master is too strong. Too strong. This has nothing to do with strength. Hearing this, Dustless shook his head decisively and then replied plainly, I have been with Hancock for more than 10 years. She was quite beautiful, but there were obvious traces of wrinkles in the corner of her eyes. Obviously, she was old. Mother. Robin's tone was full of surprise, and tears came out of her eyes uncontrollably. All these years, the reason why Robin lived until now was because of her mother's will, otherwise, she might have chosen to give up. Being chased endlessly by the Navy, anyone would be extremely irritated and fearful. It wasn't until Wu Chen's appearance that her former dark life was broken. She was able to live quietly and indifferently under the sun. She was able to breathe the air easily. She was no longer as secretive as before and lived a life of despair and oppression like a rat crossing the street. That's right. She is indeed your mother. She will come back to life immediately. Wu Chen vowed solemnly. It was just using his eye power to revive an ordinary human. This was nothing to him. It was as simple as eating and drinking. In fact, it was even simpler. Treating his subordinates with kindness and power was the only way to make them work harder. Especially now that Robin had joined the Straw Hat Pirates, Dustless resurrecting her mother was the original agreement. There was no need to go back on his words. He wasn't that kind of person, not to mention it was a small matter. Open the coffin. Robin nodded obediently. She then carefully removed the lid of the coffin. A cold aura of death emanated from the coffin, and Nico Olivia's frosty face entered her sight. She was motionless in the coffin, and her whole body was filled with decay. If it wasn't for the coffin's protection, she would have rotted many years ago. Can you do it, Master? Seeing this scene, even Hancock, who trusted Dustless very much, couldn't help but doubt. Can you do it? This kind of question is meaningless. I can turn back time, and I can also bring people back from the dead. I am an omnipotent being, and I am also a demon who commits all kinds of evil. This kind of trivial matter is just a piece of cake for me. The line of sight suddenly focused on Robin's mother. Wu Chen's left eye also began to change rapidly. With a purple base, mysterious black ripples spread out with 9 deep and dark magatama hanging on it. It was Dustless's Rinnegan Sharingan. Robin and Hancock looked at each other nervously. Their white and tender palms exuded a little sweat as they stared at the unprecedented scene in front of them. Their breathing was much heavier than usual. Outer Path, Reincarnation. Chapter 732. Outer Path, Reincarnation. Along with Dustless's order, the malevolent Yama suddenly flashed, as if he had drilled out from hell without any warning. He opened his ferocious big mouth, enough to swallow all things in the world. Looking at the sudden appearance of this terrifying creature, Robin and Hancock instinctively retreated, their faces were full of fear. They felt a deadly oppression from this ugly creature, which made their nerves a little confused. Don't worry, he's just a machine-like existence, he won't hurt anyone. Dustless showed a spring breeze smile, indicating that the two women didn't need to worry. This kind of creature from hell, ordinary humans would feel fear and panic, and it's also human nature. Kakaka. Immediately, under the shocked gaze of the two women, the mysterious creature opened his mouth, and a strange green light was spat out from it. The light was mysterious and full of vitality, and there was an indescribable magical power that seemed to be able to be reborn. In the blink of an eye, all the green light floated into the body of Robin's mother, and like a stone thrown into the sea, it was directly absorbed and swallowed by her. After using up all of the green light, the hideous Yama King finally disappeared. She's actually breathing. Hancock stared at Robin's mother, and she, who was already at the admiral level, clearly felt that Nico Orbia was breathing weakly. Although it was very weak, it was obvious that she could feel the residual heat in the air. She will be completely recovered soon. Robin and Hancock may not be able to see it, but Dustless's Sharingan's abnormal vision clearly saw that Nico Orbia's body was gradually recovering. The silent blood began to slowly flow again, and the completely stopped heartbeat gradually recovered, the frequency from slow to fast, and even her fingers began to move slightly. Immediately, under the horrified gaze of the two women, she finally opened her eyes that had been tightly closed. Robin. Orbia, who opened her eyes, asked in a trembling voice. She struggled to support her body, and subconsciously pinched her skin, thinking that she was dreaming. It wasn't until the severe pain spread all over her body that Orbia realized that it was not a dream, but reality. How is this possible? Didn't I die? Orbia's lips trembled uncontrollably as she said in disbelief. Mother, it was young Master who revived you. Tears flowed from the corners of Robin's eyes as she sobbed. He subconsciously looked at Dustless. In this strange and mysterious world, he was the only male. Naturally, the young Master that Robin had mentioned was on the verge of popping out. You are a celestial dragon. Her pupils instantly dilated several times, and Orbia suddenly jumped out of the coffin, protecting Robin's body. Her blank eyes were also filled with vigilance. Through the small part of the emblem exposed on Dustless's left chest, she instantly saw through Dustless's origins. In this world, no one dares to pretend to be a celestial dragon. Mother, you worry too much. Young Master is indeed a celestial dragon, but there is an essential gap between him and those celestial dragons. Wiping the tears from the corner of his eyes, Robin indicated that there was no need to worry. What do you know? I know the history of the celestial dragons better than you. They are actually the culprits who rule the world behind the scenes. The Gorosei, 5 elder stars, and the Navy are their lackeys. Orbia still did not relax her vigilance and looked at Dustless as if she was facing an enemy. Her eyes were locked on him. Celestial dragons were synonymous with evil in the eyes of the scholars. Their evil was worse than the Gorosei, 5 elder stars. Don't be nervous, if I want to do it. You are just a person who will return to the place where you came out before in a flash. The dead voice fell, and Dustless also disappeared. What a fast speed. Celestial dragons have such a level of character? Sensing the chilly wind behind her, Orbia suddenly turned her head. In her beautiful eyes, there was an expressionless Dustless. That cold gaze was filled with contempt, as if he could kill her in an instant with just a thought. Orbia's chest rose and fell uncontrollably, and her delicate face was shocked, filled with horror and dullness. Thinking of Mariewa's group of celestial dragons who only know how to eat, drink, and poop, and then comparing it with Dustless in front of her, she suddenly felt that her previous worldview was gradually collapsing. Don't think that you know everything. That's just your wishful thinking. This world is very big, and people who can know all his secrets are useless, and God is no exception. Glancing at Orbia, Dustless retracted his gaze and looked indifferently at the world in front of him. His pupils began to twist again, and the world in front of him began to change dramatically again. Once again, he returned to the previous stinky warehouse. Hancock and Robin were okay. After all, they had just experienced it once, but Orbia's face was directly frozen, and her whole person was motionless like a sculpture. Space instantly shifted, and she came to another world. Thinking about it, she had a ridiculous feeling that this was a dream. Don't be so surprised, I said before, the things you have seen before are just the tip of the iceberg of this world. Celestial dragons, Gorosei, 5 elder stars, including the Navy, and the so-called Yonko, for emperors, maybe in the near future, they will disappear forever. The world is progressing, and those who indulge in the past can only be swept into the garbage dump of history. His deep eyes seemed to be able to penetrate the world, and Dustless's eyes burned with flames of ambition. Chapter 733. Robin's mother stared blankly at the back of Dustless, and suddenly felt that the world in front of her was dark, as if she had encountered a legendary madman or a psychopath. As a celestial dragon, he actually wanted to overthrow this decaying world. How could Orbia be calm? Robin, your young master is not a legendary madman. Otherwise, how could he overthrow his own rule? Orbia's eyes were filled with suspicion, and she had deep doubts about this. Hearing this, Robin didn't know whether to laugh or cry as she looked at her surprised mother. She opened her mouth and wanted to persuade her carefully, but she found that she was speechless. To some extent, Dustless's approach was indeed crazy, and only an idiot would overthrow his own rule. The young master's heart is higher than the sky. How could he be willing to be that ridiculous celestial dragon? This narrow sky can't bind the young master who wants to spread his wings and rule the world with his own absolute strength. This is just the first step for the young master to set foot on the top. Compared with the dazed Robin and her mother, Hancock, who had been accompanying Dustless all year round, was clear about Dustless's true thoughts and his ambitions. In other words, celestial dragons enjoyed a godlike status in this world, and everyone must kneel down and not have any blasphemy in their hearts. This was also what Dustless wanted to pursue. But there were many people who had this status, and there was a large group of Mariehua. What Dustless wanted to do was to eradicate the group of people except himself. That was all. She's really a lunatic. How could she do such a crazy thing? She set herself on fire. Orbia's eyes widened as she said in disbelief. Even because she was too excited, her voice was a little sharp and harsh, making people uncomfortable with goosebumps. The young master can do it. Compared with the skeptical Orbia, Hancock, who had been with Dustless for many years, nodded firmly. No one knew better than her how capable her young master was. In terms of strength, Dustless was an invincible existence in the world, and the forces he'd gathered in secret were extraordinarily enormous. Moreover, they were all extremely outstanding existences with strengths that were 1 in 10,000 experts. Ordinary people were unable to enter Dustless's attention. Hancock's fanatical eyes infected Robin, and she also looked at Dustless's back with a face full of obedience. Robin, don't forget that you are an archaeologist. Seeing her baby daughter like this, Orbia said solemnly, and her voice was a little depressed. Speechless, Orbia stared at Dustless's gradually dissipating back. She felt a headache coming on. As an archaeological researcher, she had to be careful and cautious about everything. The current Robin did not look like an outstanding archaeologist at all. Instead, he looked like a possessed religious follower. Their fervent gazes were filled with reverence as if they had seen a god. The world government is destined to be overthrown. This is not a coincidence, nor is it an accident, it's fate. Indifferently looking at the sun gradually setting in the distance, Dustless's eyes were particularly long and deep. Carefully looking at the distant sky, his eyes seemed to see the surface of prosperity, but the inside was rotten to the bottom of Mariehua. From the time I appeared in this world, the sovereignty of this era began to change its name. Time passed by quickly. Unknowingly, 5 days had passed silently between the gaps of his fingers. Dustless also allowed Robin to join the Straw Hat Pirates. Before that, she used a strategy to break into the Straw Hat Pirates and became an inseparable member of them. Marine Headquarters. As the most righteous island in the world, Marin Island, the sky was always clear and cloudless. The serene atmosphere on the island was intoxicating. Compared to the other war-torn islands in the New World, it was simply a paradise. The news that Crocodile was killed spread all over the world like a storm, and the relatively calm sea suddenly set off stormy waves. The fall of a generation of heroes, the shock that spread was unprecedented, and the whole world fell into an explosion of public opinion, guessing who did it. Some things can't be concealed, and Sengoku didn't hide it and directly told the world the truth of the matter. Of course, the information about Pluton and the revolutionary army behind the scenes were all selectively concealed. Therefore, Dustless was inevitably pushed to the center of public opinion again. In the warm office, Dustless comfortably enjoyed the morning sun through the window, lazily arched his body, intending to take a nap, but suddenly there was a depressed sigh beside him. Garp, there's no need to be sad, your grandson has a bounty of 100 million berries, and he defeated Crocodile. This is the government's recognition of his strength, and you should be happy. At this moment, Garp's face was black, and his old eyes sometimes shot a cold light. His big hands trembled slightly, and the bounty list he was holding was the smiling Luffy. The bounty has also risen from the original 30 million berries to 100 million berries. Luffy's strength has attracted the attention of the Marine since he defeated a veteran pirate like Crocodile. The bounty has more than doubled. Happy. His strength can improve and he defeated Crocodile. This old man is indeed gratified. Unfortunately, he has embarked on a path of no return. The complex and bleak sigh was filled with guilt and self-blame, and there was a little failure. Dorag stood on the opposite side of him and became the world's most evil wanted criminal. He hoped that Luffy would be able to wash away his shame and embark on the road of absolute justice. As a result, because of Red Hair Shanks, he became a pirate that caused a sensation in the world. The war between the Marines and Whitebeard is not an accident or a coincidence, but an inevitable result of various reasons. Yonko, for emperors, seem to be the strongest, but there is no doubt about it, but once Whitebeard is lost, this pirate group will be useless. Secondly, Whitebeard is an old man of the previous era. He is on par with the Pirate King Roger and Golden Lion Shiki. Roger and Golden Lion Shiki have both died, and the significance of destroying Whitebeard is self-evident. This era is out of control, and it will eventually lead to destruction. Looking at the busy figures below, Garp said with emotion. As a high-level Marine, he naturally knew why the Marines were so busy. Everything was to prepare for the future war. Whitebeard is old and weak, and it is best to use his blood to commemorate the end of the old era. My opinion is different. At this moment, Dustless suddenly opened his mouth and laughed, looking at the sky in the distance. I think this is the beginning of a new era. Winter goes and spring comes, and the destruction is also a new beginning. It seems that I have to give Fire Fist Ace to Sengoku in the near future. The hesitation in his eyes turned into determination, and Dustless decided in his heart. When one should be decisive, one should be decisive. As for Garp, Dustless could only apologize. Although their relationship was not bad, their standpoints were as different as heaven and earth. Dustless was a selfish person from beginning to end. He would never abandon his own plan for Garp. Somewhere on an island in the New World. Keek. How many ability users are there? The gloomy and arrogant laughter burst out, and the surrounding area has been turned into ruins, and the ground is bare, as if it has been swallowed up with bones, which is particularly terrible. The surrounding area is dead, and the corpses emitting black gas can be seen. Captain, when will we leave the Whitebeard pirates? Now there is no need to continue living under someone else's roof. We can be independent. It's really uncomfortable to listen to the command of the old man Whitebeard all day long. Looking closely, Blackbeard and his companions were gnawing on burnt barbecue. And the people who were being hunted around were the ability users that Blackbeard had sniped. After killing them one by one, he would devour their abilities and use them for himself. During this period of time, Blackbeard had been doing the same thing day after day. You are wrong. Temporary forbearance is not a kid. If you can't hold back your restless temper, then you are a kid. I have endured for decades, let alone a few days. As long as I think the opportunity is right, I will immediately attack Whitebeard and take his ability. Blackbeard's eyes glowed with a gloomy smile. I am afraid that before they even get close to Impel Down, there will be countless shells flying over. I can give it a try. At this moment, Blackbeard said ambitiously. At the same time, a huge plan suddenly formed in his mind. His eyes flickered back and forth, as if he was considering the feasibility of the plan. As long as you join Shichibukai and get this identity, it is estimated that it will not be difficult to get in and out of Impel Down. The prisoners inside are the best candidates to join my pirate group. Hey. After that, Blackbeard laughed arrogantly and unscrupulously. His fanatical eyes seemed to have seen the future, and the Blackbeard pirates swept through the new world. It's not as simple as you think. Don't forget that there is that man. It's not that simple to join Shichibukai. Sniper Van Oka's voice was slightly panicked. Dustless's figure was uncontrollably reflected in his mind, and the scene of crushing him and Blackbeard, as well as Fire Fist Ace, was vivid in his mind. Blackbeard's expression suddenly solidified and froze, replaced by an unprecedented dignified look, and even his shining eyes were filled with fear. Even if he tries to hide it and keep calm, his uncontrollable body is full of loopholes. There was a soul-deep fear towards Dustless. That kind of overwhelming power that was close to destroying the world was beyond imagination. Even Whitebeard would have no chance of surviving if he faced him. I am not his opponent in this state, looking at the corpses all over the ground, Blackbeard affirmed. The abilities of these corpses have been swallowed by him. Now Blackbeard has dozens of abilities. Even so, he does not think that he is Dustless's opponent. The unparalleled ultimate strength is like a rock that makes him breathless. The gap between the two sides is no exaggeration to say that it is a different dimension. Hey 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 hey, his eyes suddenly flash with light, and Blackbeard's plan came to his mind, and he grinned and laughed wildly. Captain, several members looked at Blackbeard speechlessly. This guy is always so inexplicable. Hey hey. Am I not the son of the old man? In the future, I can surpass him. He should be very happy. His eyes were filled with cold killing intent. Blackbeard gritted his teeth and said, I can personally send him to his death, and he can rest in peace in the underworld. He already has a perfect plan in his heart. Naturally, there are conditions to become a Shichibukai, and Blackbeard's condition is to attack Whitebeard. Attacking Whitebeard will definitely lead to being driven out of the Whitebeard pirates and being wanted by the Whitebeard pirates, and it happens that he can become a candidate for Shichibukai for this reason. If he dares to attack Whitebeard and can leave safely, he is bound to be valued by the government, and the position of Shichibukai will be easily obtained. Chapter 736. Marlin, Marine Headquarters. 7 days later, Hancock had left early and returned to Mariewa, while Dustless was delayed for 7 days due to some special reasons. He is just an admiral with an idle position. Any task is completely at will. If he wants to accept it, he can accept it. If he feels upset, he can refuse it directly, but he still has to participate in some necessary things and meetings. The fleet admiral asked you to attend a special meeting. Wu Chen, who was about to get on the boat, suddenly stopped. He turned his head and looked at Akiji behind him. He could not help but frown. There was a trace of suspicion in his mind, but thinking of the worrying naughty girl at home, he still intended to refuse. Sorry, I have something to do in my family, you know that troublemaker. Dustless shrugged his shoulders and explained helplessly. Hearing this, Akiji nodded. He also heard a little about the troublemaker in Dustless's family. Mariewa Tenryubito was tossed around by the little girl. It doesn't matter, it will take you 10 minutes, and this meeting is very special. I am afraid it is the first time in the history of the Marine. With a mysterious smile, Akiji kept him in suspense. The first time in the history. Dustless frowned slightly, and immediately his eyes flashed with curiosity. After becoming an admiral, he has participated in many kinds of meetings. The first meeting in the history of the Marine is the first time he has heard of it, and curiosity is inevitable in his heart. Since it's only 10 minutes, it's no big deal. Walking back to the port, Dustless nodded. In the corridor of the Marine headquarters, Dustless and Akiji walked side by side, surrounded by soldiers with meticulous faces. At first glance, they were the elite of the elite. What kind of meeting is it? It looks quite mysterious. Looking at the soldiers around him, Dustless was surprised. This sudden and mysterious meeting was indeed a little unusual. It's not going to be a big shot coming, it's actually like this. Is this a demonstration? After being a Marine admiral for more than 10 years, Dustless naturally knows that these soldiers are extraordinary. They are full of energy, their faces are red, and their bodies are full of murderous aura. At first glance, they are veterans of the battlefield. Big shot. Is there anyone in the Marine who is bigger than you? Akiji asked sarcastically. Dustless is a Tenryubito and his status is above the Gorisei, 5 elder stars. There is no doubt that in the whole world, only Mariewa's Tenryubito can match him. Even Mariewa's Tenryubito is far inferior. After all, Dustless is a Tenryubito and has shocking strength. Only one's own strength was the guarantee of everything. Caw caw caw. Opening the door of the conference room, a group of marine big shots were clearly visible, so everyone nodded to Dustless. After more than 10 years of getting along, everyone was barely acquainted. Chapter 737. Akainu's ruthlessness is well known to the world. Sometimes he shows the style of an executioner. For pirates, he has an unforgettable hatred and disgust. He can't wait to slaughter all the pirates in the world. The still cool space heated up sharply, Akainu was boiling, and the tiger's eyes under the brim of his hat were cold, and the killing intent almost turned into a substantial killing intent. If you want to do it, wait for me to finish. But at that time, I'm afraid you'll thank me. Lafitte is obviously not immortal. In the face of the coercion of an admiral, he was unusually calm, with an elegant smile on his face. Waving his hand, Sengoku motioned Akainu to sit down. His wise eyes looked at Lafitte, and he couldn't help but frown. Because of Dustless's reminder, he also paid more attention to Blackbeard. It's best not to be a boring reason, otherwise you... His sharp eyes glanced at Lafitte, and Akainu returned to his seat. For pirates, whether big or small, Akainu has deep disgust and hatred. Every time he encounters a pirate, it's like encountering a deadly enemy, and he can't help but destroy and melt the other party. Seeing Akainu settle down, Lafitte was also relieved. Akainu is a wolf-like character. He is also afraid, especially now that he is deep in the wolf's den. If he is not careful, he will be swallowed. Lafitte glanced at Akainu's side. However, Wuchen also noticed Lafitte's eyes and gave him a gentle smile. This guy, Lafitte frowned. He always felt that Dustless's smile was full of different meaning, as if he was looking at a clown, which made him unable to control the flames of anger in his heart. Although he was smiling, he always maintained a contemptuous and indifferent look, as if he was looking at a mouse, full of disdain. Every dog has its day, wait and see. Thinking of Blackbeard's instructions, Lafitte still wisely restrained his anger. This is the Marine headquarters. If he wants to make trouble, he will be killed by this group of terrifying characters. The 3 admirals, including Dustless, Vice Admiral Garp, and Fleet Admiral Sengoku, are fierce predators standing at the top of the pyramid. If he put up a little resistance, he would be easily killed by them. Tell me the conditions of that Blackbeard guy. You know that not everyone can enter the 7 warlords of the sea. It is necessary to deter the strength of a pirate. Sengoku said expressionlessly. Lafitte smiled faintly, restraining the panic in his heart. He calmly looked at the Marine. Captain's condition for joining Shichibukai is to attack the man with the white beard. Lafitte's words were like a stone falling into the sea, stirring up thousands of waves. Who was Whitebeard? He was recognized as the strongest man in the world. He was still regarded as a mythical existence. No one could shake his position as the overlord. Chapter 738. The Marine headquarters has always been happy to see pirates killing each other. Blackbeard is willing to face the sword without fear of death. Naturally, Sengoku will not refuse his kindness. Instead, he will be happy to help Blackbeard fulfill his dream. That ambitious man has swallowed a lot of people recently, and his control of the dark fruit has also improved. This time, he used tricks to attack. It seems that the old guy Whitebeard won't have it easy. Dustless secretly guessed. It was common knowledge that Blackbeard was extremely confident in doing things, and he deeply believed that caution was the parent of safety. Unless he had no other choice, he would absolutely not expose himself. Once he launches an attack, it means that Blackbeard has enough confidence, or he has thought about the future retreat. Lafitte smiled at the contempt of Sengoku and Dustless. He also thinks that Blackbeard's idea is whimsical. But what can he do? The key is that Sengoku has agreed to Blackbeard's conditions. Regardless of the final success or failure, the position of Shichibukai will be given to Tich. That's enough. It doesn't matter. As Blackbeard often said, bow your head and wait for an opportunity. There's no need to be angry. Everyone, at this moment, Lafitte's eyes suddenly focused on Dustless's body, and a deep smile appeared on his face as if he was planning something. His eyes shot a cunning light with a hint of conspiracy. Hurry up and leave. This is not your stage. We are not your audience. No one likes to watch your clumsy acting. Don't stay and pollute the air. Otherwise, I don't mind being a cleaner to deal with atmospheric pollution. Akainu shouted impatiently, with a tone of warning and killing intent, and he hated pirates deeply. Dustless couldn't help but smile when he heard this. He looked at the gloomy Sakazuki in surprise. He didn't expect this guy to have such a humorous side. Lafitte heard this and then said with a smile, I have painstakingly prepared the script. I believe that you will be looking forward to it and will be shocked. Lafitte lowered his tone and said with a hint of flattery. He was in a tiger's den. He really didn't have the confidence to be tough. There are many strong people here who can kill him in 10 moves. If you have something to say, say it. I hope it's not something boring. Don't forget that a promise is not an admission. Before Blackbeard attacked Whitebeard, he was always a pirate, and you are no exception. With a cold light in his eyes, Sengoku said indifferently, and his words revealed the meaning of coercion. Lafitte breathed a sigh of relief and took a deep breath to stabilize his mind. He was really afraid that Akainu would throw him out unreasonably. Everyone knows that Fire Fist Ace has mysteriously disappeared. These days, Whitebeard has been racking his brains for him. He's been frantically searching for traces of Ace. This is not scientific. Chapter 739. Lafitte's old face was blue and there were signs of turning green. Looking at the scene in front of him, it seemed that he didn't react for a while. His eyes were empty and gray and his mind was blank. What is this? A marine admiral is hiding a pirate, and it's a big pirate like Fire Fist Ace. Sengoku not only did not punish him but he didn't even blame him. It was too obvious that they were purposely going easy on him, especially when everyone was acting so relaxed and indifferent. It was obvious that they were already used to this kind of situation. What is this guy's background? Lafitte's heart beat violently, the corner of his mouth trembled uncontrollably, the frequency of his heartbeat accelerated as if it was about to break out of his chest, and his pale skin became red. This is not Sengoku's heart is higher than the sky, but the guy in front of him is obviously unusual. This kind of thing may fall on Admiral Akainu and Akiji and it will be another matter, but it falls on Dustless as if it's nothing. Sure enough, as Akainu said, a poor script, and a third-rate actor with bad acting skills. Dustless looked at the stunned Lafitte with disdain. He had long understood what this guy's intention was, or what Blackbeard behind him wanted. It's nothing more than taking this opportunity to pull Dustless down. He even hopes to use this as an excuse to imprison Dustless in a dark place like Impel Down. However, all this is just a plan, and it's really different from reality. Wasting the old man's time, is your gorgeous performance so rough? It's better for this old man to put on a bright bonfire banquet. Akainu, who was indifferent by nature, stood up, his whole body was emitting hot crimson magma, and his eyes were cold. Although he is Blackbeard's subordinate, what can he do? After all, Blackbeard is not a Shichibukai. Blackbeard has not attacked Whitebeard, which means that the treaty is not effective for the time being. It's just a verbal agreement, which shows that this guy is still a pirate. Even if he kills him, Blackbeard will have nothing to say. Who dares to break into the Marine headquarters alone? Lafitte's forehead was full of black lines as if he had fallen into an ice cave. His heart was full of despair. He suddenly felt like an idiot. He thought that because he was Blackbeard's envoy, the Marines would not embarrass him. Lafitte's heart was cold. All the Marine's high-level officials looked indifferent, and their expressionless faces were full of indifference. Obviously, if Akainu really killed him, these people would look at him coldly. Pirates don't need to pay attention to morality or sympathy. Sit down, Sakazuki. Sengoku frowned. Although he appreciated Sakazuki's decisiveness, it was too reckless. Simple force can't solve everything, and pirates can never be killed. Moreover, the position of Marine Fleet Admiral often requires more strategic vision and wisdom than ordinary people. Strength is secondary. After all, there is no fleet admiral to fight. To a certain extent, the existence of the 7 warlords of the sea is to control evil with evil. You can leave now. Remember to repeat what I just said to Blackbeard. Sengoku glanced at Lafitte and then waved his hand casually. Lafitte went back to where he came from. All in all, the Marine headquarters does not welcome him. It is a blasphemy for a mere pirate to set foot in Marlin. Lafitte pretended to be calm and nodded his head. Soon after, his dark and cold eyes quietly spread out and took in the faces of everyone present. It was as if he wanted to engrave them in his heart forever so that he could take revenge in the future. Of course, the main line of sight is still focused on Dustless. Dustless entered the eyes, and there was always a calm and elegant smile on the corner of his mouth, and the handsome and slightly immature face remained unchanged. There will be a day when the Blackbeard pirates will double back. Lafitte swore fiercely in his heart, and he recondensed his wings behind him and flew out of the window, leaving this place forever. In all fairness, he didn't want to come to this place full of depression. Even if Blackbeard really became one of the 7 warlords of the sea in the future, he didn't want to come to this tiger's den. In front of these people, if you don't have the strength to match them, you will only humiliate yourself. For example, before, Lafitte himself was like a funny clown actor, trying his best to perform and act, but the audience of Dustless mercilessly gave him a bad review. It's outrageous. Bastard, Titch, that guy. Lafitte's face trembled. By now, he already knew that the respected captain was a scapegoat. There was no doubt that Blackbeard was afraid of entering the tiger's den, so he arranged for him to be the scapegoat. Time flew by. About half an hour later, the boring meeting was over, and the people gradually left. Marlin opened his mouth. When Dustless was about to return to Mariewa by boat, a powerful roar exploded in his ears. Turning his head, it was Garp. Ace. It turns out that he has been caught and hidden by you. No wonder Whitebeard has been sad all day. Ace, and you should have no direct conflict. Why did you do that? Glancing at the indignant Garp with a cold gaze, Wuchen pursed his lips into a smile. Do you have to do that? The reason is very simple. Because I am a Tenryubito, Fire Fist Ace is AD. Because I am a Marine, he is a pirate, I and Fire Fist Ace are enemies. This is not an opposing relationship, but fate. Chapter 740. Do you have to do that? The reason is very simple. Because I am a Tenryubito, Fire Fist Ace is AD. Because I am a Marine, he is a pirate. I and Fire Fist Ace are natural enemies. This is not an antagonistic relationship, but fate. The clanging words resounded in Garp's ears. The corners of his mouth wriggled. He wanted to refute, but he suddenly realized that he had nothing to say. Just like what Dustless said, this was not a simple antagonistic relationship, but a conflict between 2 races. There is no need to deliberately create hatred, it is completely unnecessary. Tenryubito and D-race are mortal enemies. This is a contradiction inherited from countless years ago. With the passage of time, the contradiction between the 2 races has not slowed down and disappeared, but with the prolonged precipitation of time, it has become more unforgettable and has evolved to the point where it has even reached the point where it will not stop until one of them dies. Every famous pirate with D in his name is the focus of the Marine and the world government. If the threat is too great, or the potential of the future is infinite, the world government will send high-end battle power to annihilate him. Dustless still clearly remembers that Straw Hat Luffy in the original work was attacked by an admiral, but later Akiji let go of the Straw Hat pirates for other reasons. What an incompetent Marine admiral. Dustless also often heard the legend of D in Mariewa. Some Tenryubito who can barely be regarded as respectable look at D race as a devil. The once famous pirate king, Gold Roger, was the existence of Mariewa's taboo. In short, whether it was for public or private reasons, Dustless had the right to arrest Fire Fist Ace. I want to see him. Garp aged a lot in an instant, his eyes were cloudy, and his powerful voice was weak. Obviously, the news of Ace's arrest hit Garp hard, like a thunderbolt, causing him to have a mental breakdown. The old eyes were full of helplessness. He was hit hard by me, and his consciousness fell into a coma. Dustless said blankly as he looked at Garp's stooped and tired eyes. Dustless's cold eyes only have endless indifference and coldness. He is not a saint. For the enemy, the idea of rooting out the roots has long been ingrained in him. Dustless will not sympathize with him. What will you do with Ace? Garp's mouth trembled as he said decadently. For Dustless, Garp can't raise the slightest hatred. It is a matter of course for Marines to catch pirates. If this kind of thing happened to him, maybe he would catch Ace at all costs. The path of no return to be a pirate was chosen by Fire Fist Ace himself, and no one forced him. He can only blame himself for going astray. This is his own fault. He can't blame others. What Wuchen did was the duty and obligation of the Marine. It's not what I will do. You should ask Sengoku. Fire Fist Ace will be locked up and impelled down when he recovers, but according to Sengoku's character, you know better than me how he will deal with Ace. Dustless said. Sengoku's cunning and insidious nature is well known. The friendship between Garp and Sengoku is self-evident. The two of them have witnessed the rise and fall of Marines together. They have worked together to deal with pirates for decades. Their personal relationship is beyond imagination. Sengoku. That guy won't be merciful. He will punish him publicly and use Ace to trap the Whitebeard pirates. Garp sighed helplessly with a sad tone. It is because he knows Sengoku too well that Garp feels desperate. Dustless nodded noncommittally. Whitebeard was terminally ill, and Sengoku took advantage of the situation. It is understandable to use Whitebeard's blood as a sacrifice to commemorate the end of the previous era. After all, Sengoku used to do this kind of thing before, so he was called Wise Admiral by the world. But the only difference is that the protagonist of this incident has become Garp's grandson, the son of Pirate King Roger. Dustless's clear eyes witnessed Garp's dispirited look, and his bones and blood seemed to have been taken away by someone, leaving only skin and bones. He couldn't help but sigh. In all fairness, it is indeed cruel and ruthless to this Marine veteran who has dedicated his life to Marine and the government. In Garp's eyes, Ace is no different from his grandson. Blood is thicker than water, and it is false that he is not sad. You're on your own, Garp. Dustless withdrew his gaze from the depressed Garp and stepped on the battleship to Mariewa. The world is changeable, and sometimes fate is twisted and bizarre, and the appalling thing of killing each other is not unique. This era has gone berserk. Garp murmured in a daze. Even if he can wipe out the Whitebeard pirates, whether it is a blessing or a curse, only God knows. Maybe what awaits the world is not a sunny day, but an unprecedentedly more ferocious pirate. Dustless turned his head and glanced at Garp. His silent eyes burned with ambition, enough to swallow the sky and devour the earth, and his whole face was a little red. The change of era is inevitable. Everything in the future is changeable. However, one thing is certain. The struggle for hegemony in the sea area in the future will be more dangerous than the previous chaotic era. Among the countless ambitious and ruthless people, only one person can stand out. The dead eyes splashed with stormy waves, and the edge of the wave was the edge of the world. Dustless's goal is always this world. The loss of the island is meaningless. There are as many islands in this world as there are stars in the sky. No one can calculate how many islands there are. Every day, islands disappear because of fierce fighting or are annihilated in other ways. Chapter 741. Dustless can naturally understand Garp's feelings and discomfort. In this world, blood is the only thing that is hard to give up. Garp regards Fire Fist Ace as his grandson. His own grandson was about to be sentenced to death, and not only was Garp unable to save him, he could only watch silently. It was easy to imagine how he would feel about this. Dustless, Sama. On the blue sea, the giant battleship cut through the thorns and brambles, braving the wind and waves, and rapidly sailed in the direction of Mariewa, setting off huge waves. On the spacious deck, Dustless looked at the distant sea. His eyes were in a trance as he seemed to be immersed in memories. He was enjoying the sea breeze. Next to him was White Setsu. Nico Robin has successfully infiltrated the Straw Hat Pirates, White Setsu reported. Dustless opened his eyes when he heard the words, and the empty eye sockets regained their light. Robin is smart and shrewd. I expected that she would be able to break into the pirate group. The Straw Hat Pirates are strong, but their members are no exception. Almost all of them are idiots, so it's easy for them to sneak in. It's just a third-rate pirate group. Why is Dustless, Sama so persistent? If you want, it's not difficult to insert your men into the Yonko, 4 emperors. Staring at Dustless's messy hair, White Setsu was puzzled. The current Straw Hat Pirates are ordinary. They don't have any bright spots. They are just strong. I arranged for Robin to go in just to find the ridiculous poneglyph. As for other purposes, that kind of hot-blooded hothead won't live long. Wu Qin said with a calm expression and a steady aura. Dustless won't be at ease if Robin goes alone. In that case, it's better to use the Straw Hat Pirates to provide a layer of protection for the hot-blooded youths. He taught Luffy a lesson a while ago just to enhance his motivation and let him understand the cruelty of the world. But it is undeniable that the Straw Hat Pirates are really powerful. In just a few days, they ran to the Sky Island. White Setsu suddenly said with a little appreciation in his tone and a rare smile on his face. Dustless was stunned when he heard this. He immediately thought of a miserable god on the Sky Island and could not help but feel a little sympathy. It was his bad luck to meet a rubber man like Luffy. The powerful ability of Rumble Rumble Fruit was almost completely restrained. But Enel's Devil Fruit, speaking of this, White Setsu's voice suddenly stopped, with fanaticism in his eyes. That guy's Rumble Rumble Fruit is called the Fruit of Invincibility. It's better to bring Enel into the group. White Zoo suggested to Dustless. He was so excited that he thought the plan was feasible. You mean Enel? Closing his eyes and recalling Enel's past, Dustless's reaction to White Setsu's proposal was mediocre. That guy's strength is average. It is estimated that he is only at the level of a quasi-admiral. This kind of person is not qualified to be my subordinate. There is no doubt that Rumble Rumble Fruit is powerful. It is known as the most powerful fruit of Logia. It is more powerful than Dustless's Glint Fruit. But even so, he was defeated by Luffy. Although it was due to his ability being restrained, Enel's defeat was an undeniable fact. Losing to Luffy because of his ability was restrained, this reason could not convince Dustless. In the final analysis, it was because Enel was not a good person. And, do you think a person who dreams of becoming a god all day long will be willing to serve me? Dustless's words made White Zoo speechless. After a moment of contemplation, the thoughts in his heart were extinguished. Enel was such an ambitious person. It was a fool's dream to want to tame him. Even if he was killed, he may not submit to dustless. However, rumble rumble fruit can't be wasted in vain. It is also the invincible fruit. If it were someone else, the power would be beyond imagination. Dustless's head suddenly raised, and his shining eyes pierced through the layers of white clouds, as if he saw Enel countless miles away, and the corners of his mouth lifted into a cold smile. Dustless Sama is going to kill Enel directly. White Zetsu was surprised, and his tone was a little stunned. It is not difficult to hear that Dustless's murderous look is obvious that he wants to kill Enel directly. In this way, a new rumble rumble fruit will be born from some corner of the world. It is only a matter of time before White Zetsu finds rumble rumble fruit. Straw Hat Luffy doesn't seem to be able to kill him. That kid is too kind to kill Enel. White Zetsu frowned and scolded Luffy for being incompetent. He didn't have the ruthless style of a pirate. When Luffy defeated Crocodile, he could have killed him on the spot. The same was true for Arlong, but that kid was merciful and let him go. That kid is really unqualified. He is completely different from other pirates. Dustless could not deny it. Luffy is a pirate, and his bounty is now as high as 100 million berries, but the bad things he has done can be counted on one hand. He has never done that kind of crazy massacre in a city. For other ferocious pirates, they often do this kind of thing. Leave it to Hawkeye. If it's him, then Enel will die. I think he's also curious about the legendary thunderclap fruit. He didn't have the time to go to the Sky Island to play. He just sent Hawkeye to clean him up. Hawkeye was bored for a while, and this is a disguised way to relieve boredom. Chapter 742. But then again, raising his eyebrows slightly, Wu Chen's tones suddenly became low and cold light flashed in his eyes. Blackbeard is a coward. He can be regarded as a peerless hero, but he dares to sneak attack Whitebeard. With appreciation in his mouth, he quite admires Blackbeard's courage, but everyone can hear the contempt and disdain in his voice. It's not that Dustless underestimates Blackbeard. Maybe he can surpass Whitebeard in the future, but now the gap is not small. Challenging Whitebeard is tantamount to asking for fire. A skinny camel is bigger than a horse. Blackbeard with thin arms and legs will be crushed sooner or later by the behemoth Whitebeard. Maybe he used the dark fruit to plunder some heaven-defying devil fruit. Thinking of Blackbeard's dark fruit's ability, White Zetsu speculated. Dustless glanced at White Zetsu and immediately shook his head in denial. In the face of absolute strength, no ability can play a decisive role. The invincible tremor fruit, Gura no Mi, and Whitebeard's tempered tricolor haki are enough to deal with all unexpected situations. Even if Blackbeard really found a special devil fruit and swallowed it, what devil fruit is more heaven-defying than Whitebeard's tremor fruit, Gura no Mi? Blackbeard is not a good stubble. When a tiger meets a hungry wolf, even if he can't fight him, he will tear him apart. Dustless gloated. There is no doubt that Blackbeard can't beat Whitebeard, but the cunning Blackbeard's biggest feature is his calculation, and the careless Whitebeard can't avoid the ending of being injured. After all, Blackbeard has the upper hand, and Whitebeard, who is completely unknown, is passive and will inevitably suffer losses. Somewhere in the New World, there is a large battleship docked near an island with a strange shape. In the whole world, only this battleship has such a strange structure, Moby Dick. It is also Whitebeard's own ship that has accompanied him in his life. Although the main battlefield of pirates is fighting at sea, as a land creature, human beings also need to often rest on land, otherwise, their physique will be worn down. On Moby Dick, only Whitebeard was sitting alone in a spacious seat, and the other crew members were resting on nearby islands. During this time, the entire Whitebeard pirates were looking for traces of Ace. The high-density intense work made everyone annoyed and all of them were in a trance. The helpless Whitebeard could only order a day's rest. Beside him were several large wine jars, but there was nothing inside. Whitebeard's eyes were blank, and his rough, weather-beaten face was a little red. Obviously, he was a little drunk. Fire Fist Ace's disappearance was a huge blow to him. He had been drowning his sorrows in alcohol these days to numb his nerves. Caw caw caw, suddenly, there was the sound of footsteps on the empty deck. Whitebeard subconsciously raised his head, and the scene reflected in his eyes was an ugly person with an open belly and a belly full of dense chest hair. Titch! The blurry Whitebeard opened his eyes, and his eyes regained their clarity. In front of his sons, Whitebeard had to remain calm and collected at all times. Whitebeard knows that he is the brain of the entire pirate group, and he can't be confused about the future. I heard that your strength is improving by leaps and bounds. I plan to promote you to the captain of the 4th Division in a while. With a gentle smile on his face, Whitebeard affirmed. Only those who were capable would be able to survive. This was a principle that had never changed. The old man is still holding on. Observing Whitebeard, who was forcing a smile without a trace, Blackbeard despised him in his heart. Even though Blackbeard's father had taken good care of him in all aspects and treated him like his own son, Blackbeard could only say that he was apologetic. His ambition is the whole world, and there are countless dreams that have not been realized, not the small Whitebeard pirates, and it is impossible for him to be Whitebeard's son all his life. Thank you, father. It has to be said that Blackbeard, who has been in disguise for decades, has already practiced beyond the acting style of the movie Emperor. He pretended to be flattered and knelt in front of Whitebeard, and crystal tears squeezed out of the corners of his eyes and continued to fall. Thank you. You and I are father and son. These are superfluous. If you need any help in the future, just say it in time. Whitebeard said with a kind smile. He stretched out his giant arm and patted Blackbeard on the shoulder. He was going to lift Blackbeard, who was kneeling on the ground and crying. Although this guy is ugly as a pig, in Whitebeard's eyes, he is his son, and everyone is treated equally. But then Whitebeard frowned. He was surprised to find that his arm was grabbed by a strong and powerful rough arm, and the strength was no worse than an admiral's. Blackbeard's wailing suddenly stopped, and a cruel smile appeared on his face. The person who grabbed Whitebeard's hand was him. My respected father, of course I need your help. Since you're so generous, as your son, I won't refuse. Please, go to hell right now. At this moment, after Blackbeard's voice fell, his huge body jumped up, and his right arm, full of explosive power, went straight towards Whitebeard's head. His big hand turned dark black, and in this blow, he obviously has the ability of dark fruit. It is not difficult to see that he intends to kill Whitebeard with one blow. Chapter 743. It happened so suddenly that even if Whitebeard is a god, he can calculate everything, but he is helpless against people. No one would expect that his son, who has been filial for many years, would take the opportunity to attack him and raise a cruel butcher's knife against him. The strong dark waves wrapped around Whitebeard's entire face, and Blackbeard's powerful force, like Mount Tai, hit Whitebeard's face. The whole battleship trembled violently and set off a huge shock. With the sea near Moby Dick as the center, large ripples splashed on the calm sea and crazily spread to the surrounding sea. Even with Whitebeard's strength, he was hit by this powerful sneak attack. Black smoke filled his face, and a few drops of scarlet blood fell uncontrollably. Obviously, this powerful force hurt Whitebeard. Hey! My respected father, how powerful is this dark fruit? In order to get it, I have been lurking in the Whitebeard pirates for decades. Blackbeard said with a gloomy smile. His big mouth opened and a fishy smell came out, as if he hadn't brushed his teeth for many years, and the air around him was filled with a pungent and disgusting smell. Blackbeard excitedly shook his arms. He looked like a villain who had achieved his goal. He was extremely arrogant. At the same time, this huge sneak attack and the violent shock caused by it immediately attracted the attention of the other members of the Whitebeard pirates, and they all rushed towards the center of the battle. Boom! The whole island trembled violently, followed by a series of harsh explosions. The earth suddenly burst open, a violent explosion occurred, and the earth was torn open. The whole island can feel a slight vibration, which is enough to show how large the scale of the explosion is and how vast the scope of the impact is. Those who are slightly stronger will definitely be spared. Ordinary people will be torn apart by this strong vibration, flesh and blood flying, and the whole island is a mess. At the same time, several pirate members that Blackbeard had painstakingly searched also appeared, responsible for blocking this group of people to support Whitebeard. It must be done quickly, they won't be able to support it for long with their strength. Observation Hockey quietly spread and aware of the movement on the island, Blackbeard's face solidified, revealing a cautious meaning. Although the Whitebeard pirates are just sick tigers, there are also some powerful existences, such as Immortal Bird Marco and Diamond Jozu, who are extremely powerful existences. If this dragged on, they would definitely be bitten to death by these ants, including Blackbeard. When he thought of this, his gaze towards Whitebeard was filled with a bit more coldness and killing intent. Of course, the covetousness in his eyes was also clearly visible. He did not hesitate to kill Whitebeard for the tremor fruit. Time waits for no man. Looks like you're done for, old man. Hee hee. Blackbeard laughed maniacally when he saw the crimson blood at Whitebeard's feet. Give me an explanation, Titch. Whitebeard's entire face was engulfed by layers of darkness, trying to annihilate his entire head. However, his face was like steel and iron bones, and the corrosive darkness made it difficult for him to move. Explain. TSK. This old man's brain is still so dull. There's nothing to explain. Old man, I can tell you clearly that my wings have hardened. Now I want to spread my wings and fly. This reason is enough. Blackbeard's sarcasm was filled with endless pride. He had fantasized countless times about today's scene where he could hold his head high. For Whitebeard, Blackbeard has never been grateful. He has always regarded him as a tool. How can a living human being thank a tool? Even if I can't kill you, you won't feel good. After all, my current strength is comparable to an admiral and even surpasses an admiral. Staring at Whitebeard, whose cheeks were swallowed by darkness, Blackbeard's performance was impassioned. Being able to ride on the head of a Yonko for emperors, and looking down at Whitebeard from a higher angle, Blackbeard enjoyed this pleasant and comfortable feeling. Ha ha ha, hey, are you kidding me? As the darkness around Whitebeard's face dissipated, Blackbeard's unbridled laughter stopped abruptly. His eyes widened, and his dumbfounded look was completely different from before. It was as if he had seen a ghost, and his eyeballs were about to pop out. Whitebeard's face was just scratched a little. Give me a reason not to kill you, Titch. The dead eyes stared at Blackbeard, and the corner of his eyes spread like ripples, taking in the tragic situation on the island. Because of the sudden incident, many pirates who didn't react were directly blown into a bloody mess, and their bodies were not preserved. Witnessing such a tragic scene, Whitebeard's face almost twisted into a ferocious expression. His bucket-sized fist tightly gripped the flickering bicento. Due to the excessive strength, the bulging veins on the surface of his skin could be clearly seen. The air flowing around Whitebeard showed signs of vibration, and faintly there were cracks, and with Whitebeard's anger, they rapidly expanded and extended. The ferocious transparent gap seemed to swallow the whole world. Gulp, Blackbeard was no longer as arrogant as before, and he swallowed his saliva. On his rough and ugly face, cold sweat fell like raindrops, and his legs were a little soft. As long as Whitebeard gave the order, these terrible cracks could swallow him and seriously injure him. With Tiger Elder's remaining might, the world's strongest man would definitely not be killed in an instant, especially not by a sewer rat like Blackbeard's sneak attack. Oh. I was forced by the Marine. It was the youngest admiral who forced me to do this. Seeing that the situation was not good, Blackbeard knelt down without hesitation, and the tears in the corner of his eyes flowed out like the sea. As long as necessary, they can flow out at any time, endless. The youngest admiral. Whitebeard heard the words, and the blue veins on his body disappeared in an instant, and his eyes flashed with fear. He has a unique understanding of the horror and power of Dustless. Decades ago, he may not be his opponent. Now that he is more than 70 years old, the gap between them is infinitely large. Old people really do become muddle-headed. Blackbeard looked at Whitebeard from the corner of his eyes, and seeing him showing a thoughtful expression, Blackbeard laughed secretly. Whitebeard was full of flaws. Just now, Blackbeard deliberately lowered his posture. He didn't expect this guy to be so compassionate. What a hopeless fool. Blackbeard will certainly not let go of such a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He has killed most of the members of the Whitebeard pirates. It is tantamount to completely breaking with Whitebeard. Whitebeard, who values his companions, will not let Blackbeard go easily. While Whitebeard was careless, Blackbeard was surrounded by a strange black smoke, and immediately like a gust of wind, he floated out and quietly landed behind Whitebeard. His hand clenched into a fist, condensing more fierce force than the previous sneak attack, and he went straight to Whitebeard's back. Hey! There was no bloody scene as imagined. Between heaven and earth, there was only a harsh roar, and it spread to every corner of the world along with the breeze. Then a painful scream resounded through the sky. Ouch! It hurts, damn old man. The scream of a pig came out of Blackbeard's mouth, and his right arm was shaking uncontrollably, and Blackbeard's ugly old face was twisted violently in pain. Looking closely, Whitebeard's back has turned into black steel. Damn old man, armament hockey is so powerful. Taking a deep breath, Blackbeard's face was blue. Due to the dark fruit, the physical damage he received was twice as much as others, so it was extremely painful. His full-strength punch felt like it had hit a hard meteorite. Blackbeard, who did not expect this, felt like his arm was about to break. He grimaced in pain. I was just testing you. It seems that you are hopeless, Titch. Whitebeard turned his head and looked indifferently at Blackbeard, who was in pain, and his killing intent was boiling. His tone was cold, and of course, there was a bit of loneliness. There is nothing more sad than this. The most trusted person betrayed him in the end. Don't pretend there, you are the one who is hopeless. Blackbeard retorted with a fierce face, and his eyes were bloodshot. You, who have been silent in the emotional world of your family, have lost the courage of the past, and began to become mediocre. Until now, you are already at the end of your life. Shameless brat. Chapter 744. Having received an unprecedented blow to his head, Blackbeard's consciousness almost fainted, and he spat out several mouthfuls of blood. The ground had sunk 5 or 6 meters because of Whitebeard, and the ground with a radius of tens of meters was slightly tilted downwards. The central area had become a bottomless pit. Whitebeard didn't use his full strength. He could easily tear up an island with his full strength. To Blackbeard, his sturdy fist was no different from Mount Tai. A casual punch was enough to heavily injure Blackbeard. He didn't even hold back on purpose. Blackbeard was easily beaten up. The ground that was affected cracked like a layer of ice, and the slightest movement would affect the rest of the body. Titch, do you know why I didn't kill you? Whitebeard said indifferently. His emotionless voice was like moving steel, giving people the feeling that he was isolated from the world and filled with endless coldness. Blackbeard resisted the tingling pain all over his body and stood up with difficulty. He looked at Whitebeard's eyes without fear. Now, he didn't think he would be forgiven by Whitebeard. It seems that I have to take the opportunity to slip away. Anyway, the guys in the Marine headquarters have promised me to become one of the Shichibukai. It doesn't matter if I succeed or not. Blackbeard's body was dripping with blood. He had been beaten up by Whitebeard. His heart had long since given up hope. He had completely recognized the huge gap between them. This old man was extraordinarily strong. It was impossible for a human to fight him one-on-one. Feeling the tingling pain all over his body, Blackbeard's face was hideous like a ghost. His eyes were full of fear as he looked at Whitebeard. His body involuntarily stepped back a few steps. Although it was a short confrontation, Blackbeard's self-confidence was destroyed and he couldn't resist. You think a useless piece of trash like you can kill me? It's undeniable that your courage is indeed extraordinary, but your strength is as weak as a reptile. After wandering in the sea for many years, Whitebeard not only practiced shocking strength, but also practiced a poisonous mouth. Blackbeard's face twitched and showed signs of turning green. He was trembling with anger. His breathing was abnormally heavy and his whole body was red. Thinking of his lofty aspirations, and looking at his current sorry state, his old face was burning with pain. His eyes were filled with murderous intent, and his eyes were hazy like water. Boom, boom, boom. A violent vibration exploded in the air, followed by a burst of sand and stones. Blackbeard was slightly stunned. He subconsciously looked over and saw that Lafitte, one of his only crew members, was beaten up by Marco. His body was covered in blood and flesh, just like his. Not only Lafitte but the other crew members as well. We have to retreat quickly. If we stay here, we'll lose our lives. His twinkling eyes were replaced by determination. Blackbeard was about to shout for retreat, but Whitebeard's voice lingered in his ears. In front of me, do you think you have a chance to escape? Titch. After saying that, an unprecedented vibration came head-on. A destructive wave of air brushed past Blackbeard's body, and all the hair on his body stood on end uncontrollably. So. A cold wind blew, and Blackbeard's body once again turned into a hurricane. He used the logia fruit he had swallowed to elemental transform to avoid the shock attack. Boom, boom, boom. Without a doubt, the ground was the one that was being tormented. A crack that was several kilometers long suddenly appeared and rapidly spread out, as if it was going to split the entire island apart. If I want to run, you can't stop me. Blackbeard retorted angrily. After being brutally beaten up by Whitebeard, the depression in his heart could be imagined. After 2 consecutive sneak attacks, this old man was actually safe and sound. Even his previous full-strength sneak attack had all landed on Whitebeard's face. He had only scratched his skin and suffered some external injuries. Blackbeard expressed that this was a blow to him. Whitebeard, who was over 70 years old, was still so terrifying that he could easily destroy an island. It was conceivable how strong he was at his peak. This old guy's strength is perfect. I can only start from other aspects. Although he was stubborn, Blackbeard knew the current gap. The chance of breaking through from strength was 0. He could only escape from other aspects. He. Dad, haven't you been looking for traces of Ace recently? In this world, I am one of the few people who know his whereabouts. Blackbeard said gloomily with a cunning light in his eyes. At the same time, Mariewa Dustless also frowned. The battle between Blackbeard and Whitebeard naturally could not escape Dustless's detection. White Zetsu's clones were all over the world, and he got the news almost immediately. Dustless could detect every move in the new world. Even White Zetsu secretly made a projection of Den Mushi, and he could clearly see the battle between Whitebeard and Blackbeard. No wonder Blackbeard would sneak attack him. It's really disturbing. Dustless nodded slightly, thinking of Blackbeard's sudden sneak attack a few days ago. The doubts in his eyes disappeared. Looking at Blackbeard's posture, it was obvious that he had complete control of the dark fruit and could use it at will. And according to Dustless's recent information, Blackbeard attacked a large number of ability users. How many abilities did he have? It was definitely not less than 10. Among them, there was no lack of some extremely special abilities. This was also the biggest capital that Blackbeard dared to sneak attack Whitebeard. A person could launch more than 10 kinds of devil fruits at the same time. It was self-evident what kind of fantasy this was. Chapter 745. Dustless frowned and looked at the scene in front of him through the image of Den Mushi. He looked at the embarrassed Blackbeard and couldn't help but scold him for being an ignorant stupid pig. Armament hockey is the natural enemy of ability users. It's a fool's dream to compete with the monster Whitebeard with multiple abilities. Blackbeard is still too far away. Then again. Dustless stared at White Setsu's face and frowned and asked, Hawkeye hasn't left yet. If he hasn't gone, I'll take his place. I'll solve the Sky Island problem, and I'll personally inform Robin about some things. Not for the time being. He's very leisurely recently. White Setsu said truthfully, looking at Dustless without asking much. Staring at Blackbeard, who was fighting with Whitebeard, Dustless knew that Blackbeard's joining of Shichibukai was unstoppable. He attacked Whitebeard and the promise made by Sengoku was bound to become a reality. Although the current world is different from the original work, Dustless doesn't care. Some things are different, but it's still a detour to the original starting point. Some things can't be avoided easily, and the wheel of history can't be stopped. Hawkeye can deal with Enel. White Setsu frowned. At present, there are still a lot of trivial things waiting for Dustless to deal with. Enel, a quasi-admiral, can be easily obliterated by Hawkeye. Blackbeard's joining of Shichibukai is inevitable. Sengoku took advantage of Blackbeard's joining this time and forcibly summoned all the current Shichibukai, including Doflamingo and Moonlight Moria. This is also the news that Dustless has just received. Hawkeye is about to be transferred to Mariewa to participate in the Shichibukai meeting, so the news of cleaning up Enel will fall on him. As long as Enel is destroyed, a new Rumble fruit will be born in other parts of the world. With White Setsu's clones all over the world, it's just around the corner to find the traces. It's estimated that it's the foreplay to deal with the Whitebeard pirates. Sengoku is the kind of person who believes that caution is the best way to sail a ship for 10,000 years. How can he not use such a good coolie like the 7 warlords of the sea? Dustless explained faintly. He understood Sengoku's intention. He was afraid that he was going to use the power of Shichibukai to deal with the Whitebeard pirates. Fighting evil with evil has always been the policy of the warring states. Dustless promised that after Fire Fist Ace recovered, he would offer him with both hands. At that time, Sengoku would definitely publicly execute Fire Fist Ace in front of the whole world. To put it bluntly, it was an operation to trap the Whitebeard pirates, and Fire Fist Ace was just a bait to catch the big fish. If you refuse this Shichibukai meeting, I'm afraid your title will be stripped. Dustless, who knows Sengoku's temperament, said. Frowning slightly, Dustless looked at the sky in the distance, his eyes were full of thoughts. In the original work, the reason why Whitebeard dared to fight with the Marine headquarters in public was that he still had some confidence to win. Now the world is completely out of control. Dustless and the Gorosei had an agreement. When the Marine headquarters was attacked, as an honorary admiral, he could not refuse the task. He must do his best to eliminate the enemy. It also means that Whitebeard will completely fight with Dustless. The final outcome is self-evident. There is no other way except for self-destruction. It seems that because of the appearance of Dustless-sama, the world has already changed. White Setsu said helplessly. Whitebeard is not an idiot. he can't lose the entire pirates for Fire Fist Ace's life. For Fire Fist Ace, all his sons will be sent to hell. He won't do such a stupid thing. Therefore, whether Whitebeard will attack the Marine headquarters or not, only ghosts know. Without Dushless, there may be a few chances of winning, but Dushless, who is powerful enough to overturn the war, chose to intervene. Whitebeard's final choice is unknown. Maybe because of the existence of Dustless Sama, he will choose to abandon Fire Fist Ace. White Zetsu said. Thinking about it carefully, this possibility was indeed very high. He clearly knew that there was a dead end ahead, but he still faced it head-on like a hothead. Only an idiot would do such a thing. Whitebeard is a cunning old man who is as smart as a wolf. He will certainly not go into a trap. Feelings are a double-edged sword, hurting others and hurting oneself. In any case, Dustless will not turn a deaf ear to Fire Fist Ace, and it is impossible to abandon him. His eyes regained their focus, and Dustless affirmed. Fire Fist Ace's position is not only as simple as Whitebeard's son, but he is also the direct son of the Pirate King, Joel D. Roger. Whitebeard, who values friendship in his life, will not watch Ace be executed. His relationship with Roger is known to the world, they are enemies and friends. In the future, Sengoku will see this and choose to publicly execute Ace. What should we do? White Zetsu asked. Dustless's purpose is to hope that the world will go berserk. The annihilation of the Whitebeard pirates is bound to cause a loss of control. The sea that was once ruled by the Whitebeard pirates will also fall into a situation of war. After Whitebeard's death, the position of Yonko, for emperors, will be replaced by our people. He is the last product of the last era. He is not suitable for the new era. It is good to die with the wind like Roger and Golden Lion. A casual and short sentence, but it sentenced Whitebeard to death and also showed Dustless's position. As for Blackbeard, who became a Yonko, for emperors, after Whitebeard's death, he can only say that time does not wait for him. There are only 4 positions of Yonko, for emperors, and there is no need for one more. Chapter 746. The whole world is so big, and most of the area is occupied. The resources consumed are increasing day by day, and the place that can be developed is getting smaller and smaller. This world can only accommodate 4 Yonko, 4 emperors. Blackbeard joining Shichibukai is only temporary. His purpose is to impel his companions in the city. Dustless's tone is positive. Now Blackbeard pirates' limbs are incomplete, and the crew including Blackbeard himself is only 3 or 4. What kind of embarrassment is self-evident? After plundering enough companions, he chose to defect from Shichibukai without any reluctance. At this time, Dustless's body also flashed with golden luster, and they all rushed out of the window. Their bodies were filled with a large number of photons, and they could disappear at any time. Dustless-sama, White Zetsu was stunned. Dustless looked like he was going to go to a mysterious place. If we're late, Enel might slip away and run to the moon. It's not worth it. Looking into the void in the distance, Dustless seemed to see through the sky island thousands of miles away, and the scene thousands of miles away was played out in his eyes, and then his whole person turned into a rainbow and whistled straight out. In the boundless blue sky, only a straight golden beam was left, like a peerless sword out of its scabbard, and the void was cut by the awe-inspiring light. Hawkeye is about to be summoned by Sengoku to attend the Shichibukai meeting, and Doflamingo, one of the Shichibukai, is no exception. Dustless can only deal with Enel himself. At this moment, the farce between Blackbeard and Whitebeard was over. He. Father, you really aren't suited to be a pirate. Blackbeard gasped for breath. Blackbeard's eyes were full of contempt, and it was stupid to let go of a deadly enemy because of Fire Fist Ace. Teach, I'm too lazy to listen to your nonsense, tell me what you know, or I can change what I said before." Whitebeard's eyes condensed a piercing cold light, and the words he said were as cold as the wind. "Don't forget, I am a pirate, and speaking is also a feature of a pirate." Blackbeard's old face kept changing as he glared fiercely at Whitebeard. After a while, the flame in his heart was extinguished and disappeared. Now that things had come to this, he no longer wanted the tremor fruit. It was all thanks to God that he was able to keep his life. "Tell me where Ace is, or else." "Humph." The moment the majestic roar fell, Whitebeard's powerful feet stomped on the ground, and the ground under his feet suddenly became like paper scraps. Dense cracks flashed in the air, and the degree of density was like a spider web. The threat and disdain in his words were not concealed at all. He looked at Blackbeard with a cold and merciless gaze, as if he was an insect, not paying any attention to him. There was nothing but contempt. "Concealing Ace's tracks, this is your end." Pointing at the ground that had turned into granules under his feet, Whitebeard warned with a stern expression. His eyes were filled with blood-red killing intent. Clearly, he was not joking. At the same time, a murderous aura surged out of his body, and his momentum was as great as a demon. In his decades of pirate career, he had destroyed many pirates under Whitebeard, and the accumulated murderous aura was suffocating. If you look around, you will be shocked to find that there are some miserable white frost on the ground. This is all caused by Whitebeard's shocking murderous aura. He has been in the sea for many years, and the pirates and marines that he has destroyed are as many as the sky. The specific number is simply impossible to calculate. Blackbeard's old face was pale. Even breathing was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Invisibly, someone was strangling his neck, wanting to kill him. In reality, Blackbeard knew that this was because Whitebeard's killing intent was too terrifying, causing him to hallucinate. "Hey!" Blackbeard laughed strangely, but it was not difficult to see that he was holding on. In order to save his life, he chose to tell Ace's whereabouts. If he resisted, he would really be torn to pieces by Whitebeard. Blackbeard, who was greedy for life and afraid of death, regarded his life as the most important. Ace was taken away by the youngest admiral of the Fire Fist. Thinking of Wu Chen's indifference to the common people and his indifferent face towards all living things, she couldn't help but take a deep breath. Her heart still had a lingering fear, and her eyes still had the joy of surviving a disaster. "This is what I saw with my own eyes." Fearing that the old guy Whitebeard would not believe him, Blackbeard repeated it firmly. Whitebeard's old face went straight, full of hatred, and Dustless's thin body suddenly flashed in his mind. His limbs were weak, and sometimes he had a kind smile like a spring breeze. His temperament was elegant and natural, and occasionally he had a bookish taste. He was slender and not very tall, about 1.75 meters. Even so, the strength that could shatter the sky with a snap of his fingers made Whitebeard desperate. Ace was taken away by him. Whitebeard's voice trembled, and his face was a little dull, showing disbelief. Then Whitebeard, who recovered from the shock, had a black face. When Ace was in charge of the devil fruit transaction, Dustless happened to rush back to Mariewa from East China Sea. The island they passed by on the way happened to be the place where Ace and the others traded. "Idiot, now is not the time for you to be surprised and depressed." Blackbeard's mouth curled into a fierce smile, and his eyes narrowed. Whitebeard was silent, and in the sluggish state of Ace's arrest, it was a rare opportunity to escape. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.